There will now be a moment for an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. I'll ask the secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 20, Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities Appropriation Bill.
I will now recognize the Honorable Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities.
Honorable House Chairperson, Deputy Minister, Honorable Steve Litsike, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Liesl van der Merwe, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Whip of the Committee, Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities across our nation watching from home, distinguished guests in the gallery and the library, fellow South Africans, good afternoon. It is with honor that I rise to table the 2025-26 Budget Vote 20 on behalf of the Department in the Presidency responsible for women, youth, and persons with disabilities. This is not just a statutory exercise, it is a political commitment, it is a moral reckoning. We gather in this house during a year of profound remembrance and responsibility. 70 years ago, the Freedom Charter proclaimed, "The people shall govern." 30 years ago, we crossed the threshold of democracy, affirming that the people shall govern is not merely a historic slogan, but it is a constitutional imperative. This budget vote calls us to account not only for what we have done, but for how far we have yet to go in realizing the Freedom Charter's demand that the doors of learning and culture shall be opened, there shall be work and security, the people shall share in the country's wealth, there shall be peace and friendship. We do not table this budget vote 20 with naive optimism, but with deliberate clarity. This budget must be a weapon of justice, a shield of dignity, and a scaffold of opportunity. Chairperson, we come to this house to affirm 5 constitutional and political truths: that youth must rise as leaders, innovators, and builders of our economy; that women constitute the very foundation of our economy and national well-being; that persons with disabilities are citizens, rights holders, and co-architects of our democracy; that state machinery must become the engine of equality; that public budgets are instruments of transformation for all of us. Therefore, honorable members, this budget vote 20 is a call to action. Chairperson, importantly, our very existence as a department is informed by a realization by successive administrations that, despite the existence of other departments and their programs, vulnerable groups require a dedicated catalyst to take extraordinary measures to rally all of government and all of society behind a cohesive transformation agenda that transcends just compliance. This is at the core of our mandate. Our budget vote statement follows the tabling of our strategic plan 2025-2030 and annual performance plan 2025-26, both of which articulate our department's unique value addition and strict alignment to the vision in the National Development Plan 2030, the 7th administration priorities as outlined in the Medium-Term Development Plan, our international protocols, G20 priorities, and our Constitution. For the duration of the 5 years, including the current financial year, our department's primary focus will be on 5 broad strategic imperatives. First is to accelerate the realization of rights for targeted groups through advocacy and mainstreaming, not only in principle but in practice, through bold policy, legislation, frameworks, strategies, and programs. Second, to drive structural and institutional transformation to ensure that economic justice, inclusive development, and social empowerment for vulnerable groups are not an afterthought, but a designed architecture in all state and societal machinery. Third is strengthening research coordination monitoring and evaluation for evidence-based programming. Fourth is to strengthen technological capabilities to ensure automation of our internal systems, to improve our service offerings, as well as elevate education, awareness, and use of technology for our vulnerable groups. Our fifth strategic imperative focus will be on modeling, coordinating, and mainstreaming of catalytic and strategic projects aimed to establish empowerment, exit pathways, and pipeline interventions for sector we are leading through emerging industrialist and apprenticeship programs. Chairperson, the department and its entities for the 2025-26 financial year has been allocated a total appropriation budget of 1.36 billion rand, where 82.4%, which is 1.1 billion rand, is for transfer to the National Youth Development Agency and Commission for Gender Equality. The NYDA is allocated 1 billion rand, which is 93.1%, while the CGE is allocated 97.5 million rand, constituting 8.7% of transfers. The 17.6%, which is 239.6 million rand, is the operational budget allocated to the department. Chairperson, over the next 5 years, our eyes are on enforcement powers that come with the ability to model, monitor, evaluate, and ensure accountability. Thus, we will prioritize the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the following core policies, legislative and strategic instruments, as well as programs, most of which we plan to introduce in Parliament within the first 3 years of the 7th Parliament. The promotion of women's right empowerment and gender equality bill, known as the Wedge Bill, whose purpose is to give effect to Section 9 of the Constitution, is undergoing final refinement. In order to strengthen implementation of the National Youth Policy, the South African Youth Development Bill is currently at draft stage. Its development will be accelerated as it is a critical instrument for elevating the youth voice and the voice of our youth while ensuring accountability for youth development targets across the public and private sectors. As a department, we have also partnered with the South African Law Reform Commission to develop the Promotion and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Bill to institutionalize our commitment to building a disability-responsive state. To effectively institutionalize and implement economic empowerment for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, we are working with the National Treasury to fast-track the regulations of the Public Procurement Act. We will leverage this act as a critical instrument for localizing gender-responsive value chains, not only as a policy commitment, but as a constitutional imperative. In addition to our department's economic empowerment strategy, we have developed a socio-economic empowerment index through which we will be able to track empowerment and participation across socio-economic sectors, thus promoting a deeper analysis of systemic barriers affecting women's economic empowerment. We are finalizing the gender mainstreaming regulatory framework, which will standardize how all departments integrate gender equality into budgeting, procurement, employment, and service delivery. You will agree, honorable members, that there can be no capable and developmental state when young people, particularly young women, largely remain unemployed and economically inactive. Therefore, in this financial year, we will conduct a midterm evaluation of the Cabinet-approved National Youth Policy 2020-2030. This evaluation is critical for assessing the effectiveness and relevance of current policy instruments while allowing for adjustments necessary to better serve all youth, especially those in the margins of society. House Chair, budgets must translate into visible change. Allow me to outline a few of our flagship priorities for the 2025-26 financial year aligned to our core constituencies. Chairperson, the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Act has now been passed. The process of establishing the National Council is underway. At government level, we have a final Deputy Directors General list who are government representatives at the GBVF National Council. We are currently awaiting on Parliament to finalize the process of recruitment of the civil society and private sector representatives. This will be South Africa's first independent statutory body dedicated to overseeing the national response to GBVF. Furthermore, Chairperson, the President has further established an interministerial committee on GBVF, alcohol and substance abuse, with clear terms of reference to expedite interventions to address the scourge of GBVF in our country. Over the next 5 years, we will reinforce and recalibrate our ongoing efforts in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide in accordance with the National Strategic Plan and recommendations of the Human Science Research Council GBVF Prevalence Study. We have launched the National End Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Dashboard, which will also be augmented by a National GBVF Prevention Strategy Monitoring and Evaluation Framework. Honorable members, our chairship of the G20 Working Group on the Empowerment of Women will continue to elevate the care economy, both paid and unpaid work, financial inclusion, and the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. We have identified legacy projects, including land distribution for women and other vulnerable groups. Chairperson, Youth Month 2025 reaffirmed that political freedom means little without economic justice. The demands of 1976 remain urgent today. Having just concluded several engagements across the country, including ministerial youth think tanks, we now move from commemoration to concrete action. We are finalizing the Youth Sector Priorities Plan, developed with the National Youth Development Agency and sector stakeholders, and will align its implementation with the forthcoming National Youth Policy Midterm Evaluation, and we aim to implement the plan. Honorable members, during the 2023-24 financial year, our department, through its ministerial priority projects and the 2023-24 budget vote statement, made a commitment to Parliament to rally all of government and all of society, particularly industry associations, behind the conceptualization and implementation of the South African National Service Institute, known as SANSI. We stayed true to this commitment. This initiative has since been launched by the Deputy President in May 2024 and will soon be ready to cultivate the productive potential of youth, transforming them into thousands of artificial intelligence, coding, robotics, instructors for schools, cybersecurity startup founders, market-oriented smallholder producers, industrial drone pilots, to name a few. This intradepartmental initiative will leverage our largely untapped intellectual property to implement a de-siloed, industry-oriented, market-fit, and nationally coordinated skills massification and emerging industrialist development program. This is in response to the crisis of millions of South African youth who are neither in education, employment, nor training. For this initiative to take off at an appropriate pace and scale, we have submitted a comprehensive funding proposal to the National Skills Fund. We are also finalizing such applications to other funding agencies. We are deeply grateful to all departments and industry associations that have worked with us thus far, especially the CSIR, for seconding highly skilled professionals who have worked with us since the 2023-2024 financial year. Young people can therefore look forward to a range of nationwide interventions and programs with sustainable and clearly defined exit opportunities. Chairperson, we are attending to the governance matters of the NYDA. We are pleased to announce that the NYDA has a new CEO who commenced duties just 2 days ago, that is on the 1st of July 2025. We are hoping that the board of the NYDA will be appointed soon. In this financial year, we will be signing a shareholder compact with the NYDA board. We further intend to introduce seating of annual general meetings, as it is a corporate governance practice in all Schedule 3A entities, which is a category which NYDA falls under. We'll also strengthen our oversight function by establishing a ministry chairpersons forum. We need an NYDA that has all the data on the location of youth in both public and private sectors. On the programmatic side, NYDA is at an exploration phase to establish a fit-for-purpose youth endowment fund to support sustainable youth entrepreneurship and localization. The NYDA collaborates with various partners, including the SETAs, to equip young people for successful careers. This preparation will include skills development to enhance employability, work readiness training to help youth transition smoothly into workplace, work experience programs that provide hands-on learning opportunities, life skills programs that build essential personal and interpersonal skills, and online support through the National Pathway Management Network and SA Youth Mobi, offering accessible resources for job seekers. In this financial year, the NYDA is targeting to fund a minimum of 2,500 youth-owned SMMEs through the grant program. 23,000 young people will be supported through both financial and non-financial business development services. The implementation of these programs will prioritize youth with disabilities, rural youth, and young women. The NYDA will also expand its participation base from 20,000 to 40,000 young people engaged in paid service opportunities across South Africa. Chairperson, it is important to inform the House that in 2024-2025 financial year, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities received a clean audit from the Auditor General, and we aim to sustain it. We submitted the Plus 30 Beijing Platform for Action Country Report, which showcased how, as South Africa, we have been able to advance the transformation and empowerment of women. Through the NYDA, we have funded 1,705 formally registered businesses to a total value of 78.7 million rand in various sectors. The NYDA capacitated 86,150 young people with life skills and job preparedness to enter the job market. Our department is leading by example. When it comes to disability employment equity, the department has surpassed the 4% target for 2025-26 by achieving 5.34%. Honorable Chairperson and members, as we have begun our last stretch before 2030, our ability to deliver on our manifesto promises remains entrenched. The voices of our women, youth and persons with disabilities are not asking for favors, but a constitutional promise to be fulfilled. On their behalf, let this budget vote 20 declare that let there be no social transformation without gender justice, no economic justice without youth inclusion, and let there be no democracy without the full participation of persons with disabilities. God bless South Africa. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I will now recognize Honorable Chauke. Honorable members, no, there was a confusion of names, but let us then recognize Honorable Tsiamo.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Let me greet the Minister, the entire department, members of the committee, members on my left, including the aspirant members of the GNU. Honorable members, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is entrusted with the huge responsibility of driving the socio-economic empowerment and the inclusion of groups who were previously disadvantaged. This directly aligns with the national priorities and the medium-term development plan. We stand in appreciation of this budget presented to us with over R1 billion allocated to the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. This we appreciate because it is moving us on the right direction to navigate towards a society we envisaged in both the Freedom Charter and the National Development Plan. There is willingness from the part of government to implement the national priorities, considering a slight increase of a budget in the financial year 2025 to 2026, as compared to the year of 2024 to 2025. This demonstrates government's commitment to the socio-economic transformation agenda, looking at the women's empowerment programs that will be funded through the medium-term expenditure framework. The African National Congress has always been firm in its policy position about women empowerment, and that have been demonstrated in the previous administrations. The medium-term expenditure framework enjoys an increase on the budget allocated to drive programs which speaks to the meaningful training and economic empowerment for women from 8.4 million, which was allocated in 24-25, to 16.2 million, which is allocated for the year 25-26. The African National Congress has long committed itself to the creation of a non-sexist society with equal rights through the Freedom Charter. And the budget reflects reasonable allocations to address the intersectional inequalities that exist in our society through stakeholder management and capacity building. Honorable members, we believe that resourcing such program indirectly contributes in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide, which are the pandemic we are battling with as a country. We, however, believe that more can be invested in this program to expand the scope and its impact in society. We acknowledge the work that is being done in developing and promoting women empowerment and gender equality bill. However, we further recommend that progress in this regard must be fast-tracked to ensure the full realization of our national objectives on women empowerment and equality. Over the years, there has been notable efforts aimed at strengthening institutions' operating framework. This is done to enforce the inclusion of women's voice and interest in the policy-making process. We must further strengthen our monitoring, evaluation, and research as part of ensuring that no entity, public or private, is set up in a manner that undermines the national goals when it comes to the empowerment of women, youth, and persons living with disabilities. Now, honorable members, this aligns with the policy of the African National Congress, and we believe that serious advances will be made in the medium-term expenditure framework. We believe that the budget increase in the areas of monitoring and evaluation and research, as well as coordination, will ensure socio-economic development of women, youth, and persons living with disability. We also note the 5.3 million that is set aside in 25-26 financial years for the G20 Women Empowerment Working Group meeting. This contributes in advancing gender equality and women economic empowerment. It is also important to mention that there must be impact assessment on each allocation to assist the Treasury in budgeting accordingly, as well as strengthening accountability in this regard. The National Youth Development Agency is one of the entities under the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons living with disability. This is a very crucial entity because it represents the aspirations of young people in South Africa. These young people account for a significant percentage of the population in the country. Honorable members, now this means that we must be more deliberate in our efforts in investing on young people. Now, borrowing from the former president of the ANC, President Oliver Tambo, who would have said that the children of any nation are its future. A country, a movement that does not value the youth and its children does not deserve its future. Close quote. We greatly associate with this powerful word of former President Tambo because of the evidence-based interventions that our government has tried to lead in the fight against the unemployment of young people. And the National Youth Development Agency largely informs these impactful initiatives. This entity is at the heart of the budget allocation for the department as it accounts for a huge chunk of this budget. This speaks to the government's commitment on the youth empowerment and restoring hope to young people. We further urge for the finalization of the process of appointing the board to ensure that the entity enjoys unhindered stability and focuses on the work at hand. The recent statistics indicate youth unemployment has increased at over 46%, which is unprecedented. This disaster requires collaborative efforts across government departments as well as the private sector to create more opportunities which young people can be able to explore in their search for sustainable economic development, empowerment and development. It is important for government to be intentional about addressing their youth unemployment by resourcing all entities that are youth-centered. We commend the increase in the budget allocated for the National Youth Development Agency for youth empowerment, which speaks to one of the medium-term development plan strategic objectives, which is inclusive growth and job creation. We view this as a bold commitment to address youth unemployment. However, we believe that more resources must be injected to such entities to strengthen technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. A huge chunk of the budget of the department goes to the NYDA, which equates to it being the largest focus area of the department as well as this government. The ANC welcomes this budget. We are particularly encouraged by the renewed energy and focus that the department is demonstrating in areas of advocacy for the interest of youth, women, and people that are living with disabilities. We note that this is not a service delivery department. It is rather the department whose major role is to advocate and monitor advocacy and to ensure that it monitors compliance with all the policy dictates that aim to empower the vulnerable groups in our society as well as our youth. The success of its mandate lies in all sections of society joining hands to ensure the sustainability, the sustainable empowerment of our women, of our youth, as well as of our people that are living with disability. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Before I call on the next speaker, Honourable Members, on your speakers list, if you do have, there is a bit of a change, and I want members to acknowledge that there were 3 speakers of the ANC, but now there are no longer 3 speakers. There's only going to be 2 speakers, which is Honourable Chotetsi and Honourable Chauke, and then the 6 minutes was then divided amongst themselves so that there's no confusion why they get 10 minutes each. The next, I will now recognize Honourable Khweqana.
Honourable Chair, honourable members, fellow South Africans. We rise today merely to speak, but to roar on behalf of the forgotten majority, the mothers bearing daughters lost to gender-based violence. The young people turned into beggars in their own land. And the disabled South Africans who have been erased from economic life. This budget is not a budget, it is not a plan, it is a death sentence. Let me tell you about Nomvula, a young girl from Guamashu who missed 60 days of school last year because she couldn't afford sanitary pads. Instead of receiving free sanitary dignity packs, Nomvula had to use newspapers and old rags, risking infection and humiliation. While she was bleeding in shame, this department was busy hosting 5-star imbizos and awareness campaign, burning millions on consultants of catering, consultants and catering. And to add insult to injury, this same government can spend hundreds of millions of rands to provide men with free condoms, to fund pleasure, yet they can't find money to give our girls the basic dignity sanitary pads so they can stay in schools. Nomvula is not alone. She presents millions, and this budget spits in her face. While Mr. Ramaphosa will find 700 million for ANC election campaign disguised as national dialogue, and cabinet ministers enjoy luxury cars and VIP security at cost of billions, this department cuts 90 million from its budget. You dare to call this fiscal discipline? No, this fiscal violence against, no. This fiscal violence, this is fiscal violence against the poorest and most vulnerable. Last year alone, over 1,000 women were murdered in 3 months. Over 10,000 rapes reported in Kota. Yet the so-called National Council of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide receives a pathetic 5 million. 5 million. That's less than what is spent on president's blue lights and convoy every month. You are telling women you are worth less than the petrol in ministers' motorcades. Youth unemployment stands at 46% and over 62% of teenagers. Yet the NYDA acts like as circus, dishing out stipends and photo ops instead of real jobs. Our young people don't want entrepreneurship, boot camps, and ends in selfies and empty slogans. They want real work. They want real work, real dignity, and real future. This budget allocates crumbs, 14 million to support over 2.8 million persons with disabilities. While we talk awareness, they remain jobless, voiceless, and locked out of society. Disabled people don't need more motivational posters. They need ramps, jobs, and a seat at the table. 41 million in unsolved irregular expenditure, money stolen, misused, and lost. While the vulnerable staff, no head roll, no one is arrested. This is not a government. This is a mafia running a protection racket on public funds. The MK party message is clear. We reject this vote. We reject this betrayal. And we reject this government's lies. We demand a real budget increase, not austerity cost. A fully funded GBV council, because women's lives are not cheap. A complete overhaul of NYDA to deliver permanent jobs, not pocket money. Mandatory enforcement of the 2% disability employment targets with penalties for departments and companies that fail. A functional sanitary dignity program, so no girls misses school because she is a woman. Honorable members, fellow citizens, this budget is not just numbers on a page. It is life and death. When a girl misses school, a future doctor or a scientist is lost. When a woman is murdered, a mother is buried, a child is orphaned. When a young person is jobless, a whole community collapses. When a disabled person is excluded, the entire nation is diminished. We will be not complicit in this crime against people. We refuse to fund ghost projects, expensive conferences, and luxury lifestyles, while our people bleed in streets. A government that cannot protect its most vulnerable is a government that has lost its soul. The MK party stands with the people. We stand with Nomvula. We stand with the youth. We stand with the disabled. We stand with every mother who rises, who cries over an empty
Honorable
dinner
member,
plate,
your time has expired.
And every feather
Honorable
who
member,
cannot
your
vote.
time has expired.
Amandla! All power! Kwazamkhoto Costa!
Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable Khweqan. Honorable Khweqan. Yes, I was alerting you that your time had expired. The slogan, you should have done that going to your chair instead of standing here spending more 5 seconds in slogans. I will now recognize Honorable Spies.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members and fellow South Africans, good afternoon. This Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities mission is very clear. It's to provide strategic leadership, advocacy and coordination for the socio-economic empowerment of these vulnerable groups. However, I pose a critical question. Are we taking this mission seriously enough? Since 2009, this department has been reconfigured 3 times. This lack of stability and continuity undermines our efforts to address the pressing needs of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. So many policies have been developed, but good policy is developed by undertaking and engaging in substantive and insightful research. This department is spending too little on proper evidence-based research and knowledge production, and more must be invested to ensure that research is of quality and capable of addressing the challenges it was designed to solve. Honourable members, I'm compelled today to speak truth to power. And I've really struggled to put into words the frustration and urgency that defines our youth and persons with disabilities reality. We stand at a staggering 46.1% youth unemployment rate, a crisis that demands more than just empty promises. It's time to shift from rhetoric to action. I implore state officials to leave the confines of their comfortable air-conditioned offices and engage with the very people you are meant to serve. Witness firsthand the resilience of women, young people, and persons with disabilities who are finding ways to survive and thrive despite the lack of meaningful government support. I'd like to share a conversation I recently had with Mr. Edwin Pedro, a more remarkable individual from my hometown who has been living with a disability his entire life. Despite the challenges he faced, Mr. Pedro has dedicated 32 years working with an organization called the Werkswinkel, the Knysna APD, which supports persons with disabilities. And this organization provides a safe space for individuals with disabilities to engage in various income-generating activities such as arts, crafts, woodwork, and needlework. The women in particular showcase incredible talent in alterations, curtain making, and crafting homeware, amongst other things. However, despite their remarkable work, they face significant challenges. Their transportation needs are not being met, as their old bus is no longer operational, and they're forced to rely on an unsustainable vehicle. This not only limits their accessibility, but also poses a risk to their safety. Furthermore, they struggle to access markets to sell their products, market them, and price them fairly. And this hinders their ability to generate income, grow their business, and expand their programs to support more individuals with disabilities. The story does not end there. The Little Angel School, a project under the same organization, had to close its doors due to unsuitable facilities. And this has left many mothers with no choice than to care for their children full-time or leave them in the care of others, often exposing them to potential risks. These, honourable members, are the lived realities of our people. Our responsibility is to listen, to understand, and to act. We must provide the necessary support, resources, and infrastructure to empower organizations like the Werkswinkel and ensure the individuals with disabilities can thrive. We must work together to create a society that values and supports all its members, regardless of their abilities. We owe it to the Mr. Pedros of this life, the individuals at the Werkswinkel, and the countless many others who are fighting for a better life. Imagine a project that seamlessly integrates the efforts of 4 critical departments, from basic education to public works, converging to drive meaningful transformation. This is not just a project, it's a game changer. By harnessing the collective strength of these departments across the board, we're not just talking about incremental progress, we are talking about a seismic shift in the way we support and uplift our communities. And this is real empowerment in action. Talent, honourable members, means nothing without opportunity. Stop squandering resources on ineffective initiatives and bureaucratic red tape. The people demand tangible change, not tokenist gestures. It is time to redirect the funds to grassroots programs that already makes a difference. Support the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the change makers, those who are driving progress from the ground up. To maximize impact, I urge the department to prioritize effective implementation, monitoring and evaluation of its programs, and ensuring they achieve their intended objectives. Given the allocated budget, with 217.8 million remaining for the department after the CGE and the NYDA's cut, I believe the department has the potential to drive meaningful change. As members of parliament, we owe it to those who have put us here to make sure we held each and every person accountable. The time is now for action, and let us seize the moment and make a lasting impact that will resonate for generations to come. I believe we must hold those responsible
Your
for
time has
spending
expired.
14, 15.
No, look at the time, it says minus.
Thank you. I thank you. We support the budget.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Lonzi.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Want to take this opportunity to greet the President and Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, our commissars, fighters, and fellow South Africans. House Chairperson, members of the House and the people of South Africa, allow me to open this important debate by extending a revolutionary invitation to the people of South Africa to join us in Khayelitsha Rugby Stadium as the EFF celebrates 12 years of existence right here in Cape Town. The EFF vehemently rejects this budget because a department entrusted with the protection and advancement of the most vulnerable in society is fundamentally underfunded, mismanaged, and unresponsive to the critical challenges facing women, youth, and persons with disabilities. The majority of the department's budget goes to the National Youth Development Agency, yet successive oversight hearings have exposed alarming mismanagement, poor internal controls, late financials, material misstatements, and a disconnect between reported successes and on-ground outcomes. I don't know why the President has not signed for the appointment of the new board of the NYDA, because the board that is serving now, the term of office ended last year in November. We are now more than 6 months and more than 3 months after this Parliament went through a legitimate process to select new board members, to interview new board members, but because we refused for the NYDA to be captured by the boys of the ANC Youth League, we refused for the NYDA to be captured by the comrades of the ANC, the minister is misleading the president to delay signing for the new board members. If you do not do that, you are undermining the work of this Parliament. Because it is not only the committee that adopted that report, it was tabled before Parliament. Your own members of Parliament, including your chief whip, voted for those names which were sent to the President. What are you saying as the minister when you come back and say you are not happy with the process? Are you disagreeing with the collective wisdom of your own caucus and your own members of Parliament? I don't know why Cyril Ramaphosa is delaying in the appointment of the new board of the NYDA. Now, learner pregnancy in South Africa is a national crisis. The committee has heard and flagged serious failures and gaps in protecting young girls, and many of whom become victims of rape and are forced to drop out of school. Yet the department has failed to deliver any coherent program to that effect. There is no clear strategy, no meaningful coordination with education and health departments, and no funding priorities for prevention, education, and support. The Sanitary Dignity Program, while it is vital, addresses only a fraction of the broader systemic failures in the department. Estimates indicate that over 4 million South Africans live with disabilities, yet the department's resources barely scratch the surface. The disability bill remains delayed, and the chief directorate lacks institutional capacity, and provincial systems continue to exclude learners with disabilities. Up to 600,000 children are out of the education system. The department neglects the statutory responsibility to legislate, advocate, and monitor the inclusion of both the disabled and abled learners. The committee recently pursued summons of the so-called podcaster MacG over remarks implying hygiene deficits in a public figure. An odd and selective distraction at a time when teenage pregnancy, unresolved rape cases of minors, and systemic gender-based violence remain rampant. Now, this was an episode which revealed to us the dangerous character that we continue to see in this department of spectacle over substance and grandstanding over real governance. Now, the EFF was still not satisfied that this committee, knowing full well how poorly the department has prioritized its responsibilities, failed to take decisive leadership on the Cwecwe matter. This was an opportunity for the committee to coordinate all efforts and be at the forefront of defending the rights and safety of the girl child. I'm not surprised that you are shouting, Minister, that's all you are known for, no substance, just noise. We, however, want to welcome the National Assembly resolution that all matters relating to the Kwekwe case, including a coordinated and joint oversight visit between the Portfolio Committee of Police, Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, and all relevant stakeholders must now proceed. This must not be an exception. We want all cases of abuse against our children to be taken seriously in South Africa. Commissions of reports from Parliament as well as the Commission for Gender Equality confirm that the CGE lacks the legal power to enforce its recommendations, which are routinely ignored. This department is supposed to guide transformation, mainstream gender and disability, and prevent GBV, but does none effectively due to budget constraints, weak capacity, and of course, poor leadership and a very weak minister. Rejecting today's budget is our call for accountability, clarity and courage. Let us ensure that this department is restructured to genuinely uplift and protect South Africa's women, youth and persons with disability. And we want to restate our call that the president must sign the appointment of the new NYDA board. Even if you bring the process back, Minister, I can tell you now, your boys are not going to enter in the NYDA. They will find me in that committee. They will find me in those interviews. Appoint the new board because your boys have lost and they are not going to be members of the NYDA board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will now recognize Honorable van der Merwe. Honorable members, the Honorable Sotetsi. Yes, please. Can we, uyahlupha nje nawe uyakhuluma ngapha futhi. Can we please give each other an opportunity for a member on the podium to then speak? Thank you.
House
Continue, Honorable van der
Chairperson,
Merwe.
yeah, House Chairperson, let me take this opportunity to greet you, to greet the Honourable Minister, the Honourable Deputy Minister, the Portfolio Committee members of the Portfolio on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities led by our whip. Good afternoon to all South Africans. Chair, it is Professor and author Audre Lorde that reminds us, and I quote, "I'm not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own." Right now, countless women, young people, and persons with disabilities across our nation remain shackled. Shackled not by their own making, but shackled by poverty, shackled by a lack of opportunities, shackled by gender-based violence and teenage pregnancies, and shackled by a system that fails them. And so the real question we must ask today is whether the departments whose budget vote we are considering is truly fit for purpose. It is evident that this department struggles with a limited budget, and it's been said the budget is grossly underfunded, and in turn, it struggles to implement its core mandate. But what we so desperately need is a department that is able to do more. To ensure that the sanitary dignity framework is reviewed, strengthened, and implemented in a uniform manner so that we can end period poverty. Do more for persons with disabilities. For example, as we speak right now, hundreds and thousands of learners with disabilities, more than 600,000 of them, are not in education. And I have to ask the question, where is the outrage and where is the action? And collectively, we have to do more in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide and ensure that government complies with the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Chair, Budget Vote 20 transfers the bulk of its budget to the National Youth Development Agency and the Commission for Gender Equality. Young people deserve an NYDA that is responsive, visible, effective, and accessible to rural youth. I wish to read just a snippet from a young councillor and leader who wrote on Facebook about the NYDA, and he says, "The persistent failure to appoint a new NYDA board is yet another glaring example of how young people continue to be treated with utter disrespect and disregard. The delay is not a minor bureaucratic glitch. Parliament has done its job. The selection process was transparent, merit-based, and constitutionally sound. The only plausible explanation for the delay is profoundly concerning, that it might be interference. And if that is the case, it amounts to an assault on our democratic processes, reducing a key institution to a playground for factional interests. And so I would like to make a public appeal again today to the President of our Republic, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, to act without further delay to appoint a new NYDA board, because we cannot say on the one hand that we are interested in the future of our youth, but we leave the NYDA directionless. And while the IFP welcomes the CGE's renewed focus on our teenage pregnancy crisis, it is clear that the Commission for Gender Equality must be empowered and resourced to enforce its recommendations. Without teeth, it cannot bite, and without resources, it cannot serve effectively. Chair, impact must be measured by tangible change. To this end, the IFP plans to lead in terms of tangible change. Our President, Honourable V.S. Labisa, has already indicated that a review of the criminal justice system is needed as it pertains to the sentences of rapists, murderers, and human traffickers. When we call for a more responsible justice system, it is because we refuse to accept the South Africa where impunity reigns. Then on behalf of the IFP, I plan to introduce a private member's bill, the Employment Services Amendment Bill, that will see all entry-level and low-skill job opportunities reserved for young South Africans. The work on this has already started. Reclaiming these jobs, which now is largely occupied by foreign nationals without the paperwork or skills that would make them eligible to live and work in South Africa, means reclaiming the future of our young people. House Chair, we have the policies, plans, and good intention. What remains is the political will, the unwavering collective and bold action, resources, determination, and a shared responsibility to implement and act. We will answer your call to action, and the IFP supports this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I will now acknowledge Honourable Peterson.
Greetings, honourable members, Minister, and members of the public. This report reflects a critical commitment to advancing the rights, empowerment, and socio-economic inclusion of women, youth, and persons with disabilities. A commitment that aligns with the Patriotic Alliance vision of a just, equitable, and inclusive South Africa. While we commend the department for its efforts in addressing systematic inequalities, gender-based violence, youth unemployment, and the marginalization of persons with disabilities, Minister, we must also express our growing concern echoed by many young people of this country. Their needs, aspirations, and voices are too often overlooked and under-prioritized during budget processes. Youth form the majority of our population, yet too many feel excluded from meaningful participation in shaping the very programs meant to empower them. This must change. Budgets must not speak about young people, they must speak with and for young people. We emphasize the need for strict oversight to ensure that these funds are effectively utilized to deliver measurable outcomes. Corruption, inefficiency, and bureaucratic delays must not hinder the transformative potential of this budget. Every intervention must be backed by accountability and visible impact. It is also critical that the Commission of Gender Equality adheres to and implements the recommendations made by this committee. Implementations cannot remain aspirational. It must be urgent, focused, and deliberate. The Patriotic Alliance stands in solidarity with the committee's recommendation, and let us work together to ensure that no woman, no young person, and no person with a disability is left behind in the nation's development. We support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I will now recognize Honourable Tena.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chairperson, this department's mandate is taking the lead on socio-economic transformation and implementation of the empowerment and participation of women, youth, and persons with disabilities through mainstreaming advocacy, monitoring, and evaluation, as we all know. The problem, however, is that this tends to be a talk shop instead of effecting real, concrete change and action on the ground. This department has the potential to be a game changer, yet its full potential is consistently not realized, as we have seen in the past as well. We sincerely hope to see this change over the course of this administration, Minister. Van die departement se totale begroting van 1.36 miljard rand, gaan die meerderheid 1.02 miljard rand daarvan na die Nasionale Jeugontwikkelingsagentskap. Die Jeugontwikkelingsagentskap is al vir etlike jare 'n donker gat waarin geld gegooi word sonder dat enige werklike verskil aan die lewens van ons jeug of jeugwerkloosheid gemaak word. The appointment of Ndumiso Kubeka as its new CEO has caused quite a stir and was met with positivity, as his experience as an economist and strategist is said to bode well for the agency. Time will tell. We sincerely hope that he will not be one in a long line of CEOs that held the hope of the youth in their hands, for that hope only to be trampled on in the interest of a few. We wish him well with this enormous responsibility. But how will he do this without a board, Honourable Minister, and everyone who are stakeholders in this department as well? And I would like to echo what the Honourable Committee Chair has said on this matter. The expanded access to free sanitary dignity programs for girl learners in quintiles 1, 2 and 3 schools, as well as special and farm schools, is especially welcomed. This is a great example of the actual steps that this department can take to effect real change in our communities. Girl children miss nearly a third of their schooling days due to not having the necessary products. The problem with this is that this target runs concurrent with provinces who end up being the real implementing agents, and this is where the ball is dropped. In the Free State, we have seen this project being moved from department to department with no one taking real responsibility for it. At the end of the day, reports are completed for completion's sake, but nobody ensures that targets are met, and actually met in this case. This department needs to take action against such provinces and needs to ensure that our girl children are not left behind. Natuurlik moet ons ook praat oor geslagsgeweld. Elke jaar word daar gepraat oor geslagsgeweld. Ons hou toesprake gedurende hierdie debat, Vroue Maand en 16 dae van aktivisme. Maar hoe meer ons praat hieroor, hoe minder neem hierdie aaklige verskynsel af. Volgens die jongste misdaadstatistiek het die meeste misdade afgeneem behalwe verkrachting. Dit het verhoog. In Suid-Afrika word daar elke 12 minute 'n vrou verkrag. Die veelbesproke Nasionale Raad oor Geslagsgeweld blyk ook maar net nog 'n forum te wees waar geld gemors word en daar min konkrete stappe geneem word om geslagsgeweld te bekamp. So kan dit nie aangaan nie. Voorsitter, die departement het 'n baie edele mandaat. Die probleem is egter dat die mandaat weinig omsit in werklike, tasbare impak in die lewens van vroue, kinders en persone met gestremthede. Die tyd het aangebreek dat hierdie departement nie net 'n departement van praat is nie, maar 'n departement van doen. En ons opregte hoop is om te sien dat hierdie begroting in 'n tasbare verskil omgesit word. Ek dank u.
Thank you, Honourable Dana. The next speaker is Honourable Litlape.
Thank you, House Chair. I just want to start by giving our sincere condolences to the Mabuza family for the loss of the previous Vice President of the country. Condolences to the country and strength to the ANC, his political home. I stand here as an ActionSA member, but I also stand here as a father who is a victim of femicide. So the things I say are the things I believe in. If you look at the history of this country, women have been treaded upon for centuries. And if a department has to undo the mess that has been created by all of us men, it cannot do it on 0.048% of government expenditure. If we're really serious, I hope the House would ask Treasury and the government to devote 1% of government expenditure to this ministry and the units under it. To get to 1% would require slightly more than 20-fold increase. But if we don't do that, it's just lip service to transformation. 2,000 years later, Catholics are waiting for a male pope. 30 years later, South Africans are waiting for a female president or vice president of this nation. Not by default when men have stumbled on their duties. So we need to speak to our political parties that the issue of gender equality is not just the issue of the Commission. It's something that should live inside all political parties, so that the chance of having a female president becomes a reality. If you look at Catholic leaders, most people will not remember the name of the last pope or the current pope, but they will remember the name of Mother Teresa, who was a nun, who never spoke about insufficiency of budgets and did wonders for society where she lived. So I would urge the leadership in the ministry, the money is not enough, but what we also need is dedicated strategic leadership. That says, with the money that you've given me, these are the priorities. For the other priorities, this is the budget, this is the list. And that way, you'll be leading differently. It'll be about what we are able to do on the little that you gave us, but demonstrate that given more, you can do more. This is no time for lamenting. We need to confront the traditions, the religions, the social fabric that puts women down, that promotes GBV, that makes femicide possible. We need to look COCTA in the eye. We need to look sports and culture in the eye and have the right debates for the right outcomes. ActionSA supports this measly budget, and we hope it will be increased to be sufficient to do what it needs to do.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker will be the Honourable the Deputy Minister.
Honorable House Chair and all members present, colleagues in the National Executive, Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Chikunga, fellow South Africans, I rise to join Minister Chikunga to table Budget Vote 20 for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, a radical and combative plan to break the wheel by dismantling the entrenched patterns of patriarchy, youth marginalization, and ableism, and to reimagine women, youth, and persons with disability in their diversity as active contributors shaping the lived reality of the nation. This budget appropriates resources and power behind those whom the apartheid regime kept in the periphery, so they can move to the center of our economy and society. As President Ramaphosa reminded us at the 2024 manifesto launch, and I quote, "Our economy has tripled in size since 1994, and the rate of poverty has reduced. And while unemployment has remained high, the number of people in employment has more than doubled from 8 million in 1994 to 16.7 million today. close quote. These are real gains. Million more South Africans, particularly those who had been previously marginalized, have jobs and sustainable livelihoods, access to water, primary health care, social grants, and other services that are than under apartheid. We are also inching closer to gender parity across sectors. The achievements of the past 30 years have laid the foundation on which we continue to build. Honorable members, allow me to take you on a journey to our near future. We are in the year 2030, and I receive a message from Tintswalo, a young female adult from rural Limpopo. This young person from rural Limpopo with disability. She recounts her formative years.
Honorable Deputy Minister, can you please take a seat? Honorable Nomvalo, why are you rising?
I'm rising on Rule 83. I think it's high time that Parliament is taken seriously. These people are coming to ask for billions here to be approved, and they come unprepared. Rule 83 says a member must not read word by word. But the whole deputy minister is reading. It means she is unprepared. She must prepare when she comes here.
Can you hold on? Can you hold on, Honorable Deputy Minister? Honorable Nomvalo, the mic does not work when yours is on. So when I say switch off the mic, you will do so. And that was the first warning. Can you please continue? The ruling is that your point of order is frivolous. Can you please, do you want that dialogue, Honorable Nomvalo? Honorable Nomvalo? Honorable Nomvalo, I'm warning you for the second time. Honorable Nomvalo? Honorable Nomvalo, allow him to proceed.
She recounts her formative years, a time when she and her peers were beneficiaries of programs implemented by the ANC-led government. On 3rd July 2030, she talks proudly about her cohort of peers who are now active participants in the mainstream economy as contributors beyond mere beneficiaries of government extensive social protection budget. She lauds the effective measures we took against gender-based violence and femicide, and how South Africa finally turned the tide on the second pandemic after COVID-19. Indeed, the NSP on GBV is no longer a frontline policy, and that's what we want, Honorable Letlape. We want it and its objective to be met so that we do not speak about femicide, but we prevent it in its own interests. The criminal justice system, all social formation, and every individual in South Africa rallied behind it so that even the council is coordinating its response, and we ensure the safety of our nation and all persons are not objectified or violated, but protected, respected, and affirmed. South Africa will become a global model on what is possible when a nation refuses to look away and chooses to act together. Of course, Tintswalo also acknowledges the pivotal role of CGE, a very critical Chapter 9 institution, whose steadfast oversight, advocacy, and monitoring has been instrumental in promoting gender justice. Tintswalo can now enlist the support of the CGE before the Equality Court on gender equality matters. We reaffirm unwavering support to the CGE mandate and remain committed to uphold and protect its independence. We reflect on her formative years when she shares and recounts that how she and her peers did not experience statutory rape, teenage pregnancy, and HIV infection, as all society unite around interventions and tailored services that cater for the protection of children's youth, their innocence, and future. This is the country we want. Through these multi-sectoral approaches, all stakeholders in government, civil society and private sector, amongst others, homogenized around such interventions, including Operation Bopha. And we will arrest all these men who target our children. When we know you, we want to say this because it's enshrined in our Constitution, Section 28 in the Bill of Rights. And Tinswalo, at the time, will be thankful through the intervention. Children in her generation will remain children. What is quite important is the impact of sanitary dignity program that ensured that she does not miss her education due to period poverty, an experience shared by countless young girls. I share in her wish that sanitary products are made available to every woman and girl in their diversity. The end of period poverty in our lifetime is possible. Of course, Tinswalo was proud to reflect on South Africa's G20 presidency and how we mainstream disability inclusion into the agenda on this platform, which is the world's largest economic bloc. The G20 Disability Inclusion Initiative meetings action the priorities that are highlighted in our United Nations Convention on Promotion of New Technologies, as well as access to AI, universal accessibility and independent living, and ensuring dignity of life and dimension of services. I want to say this, Honorable Member. We aim to move ahead with the Protection and Promotion of Persons with Disability Act. Minister highlighted this, and it's quite key that this legislative framework will ensure that we just not only raise awareness, we speak about self-representation, reasonable accommodation, and universal design and access into facet of all rights of persons with disability. They can enjoy the rights and the freedom as enshrined in our Constitution. What is quite important is also to look at the road ahead to 2030. That is immense, as youth unemployment in 2025 stood alarmingly high at 62.4%. In the same message that I've received, Tinswalo celebrate how institutions such as NYDA helped eradicate the scourge of youth unemployment. She writes with pride about how every young person, regardless of background, have access to meaningful opportunities to participate in the mainstream economy. Skills development, entrepreneurship, Honorable, are important because it sustains self-empowerment and self-driven economic participation. So don't look away and undermine young people because of entrepreneurship. Youth employment programs, expanded access to funding and mentorship are a norm. The once chronic need challenge, young people not in education, employment or training, no longer defines our national character. We have to reimagine the partnership, the innovation policies, strong collaboration of all social formation to rewrite the narrative of South African young people. It is quite important that we look at all sectors. We speak about green energy and renewable energy, digital economy and blockchain, autonomous electric vehicle sectors, creative and cultural industry, among others. As government, we will continue to invest in South Africa's youth. What is quite important, Tinswalo reminded us, opposition grandstanding charged our president, your presidency does nothing for us. We counter with facts. Where they allege, Mr. President, you are bullied into inaction, we stood firm and said no. Our president led a government.
Deputy Minister, can you take a seat? Honorable Selepe, why are you rising?
Chairperson, I'm rising on Rule 84. The Deputy Minister is always pointing fingers. I don't understand why. He can't speak without pointing fingers at us. Can he speak without pointing us? Because we are no longer safe here, because he keeps on pointing us. Please, can you stop pointing us?
Honorable members, there are some gestures that may suggest other things. Honorable Deputy Minister, can you avoid pointing them with your finger and address them through the chair? Can you proceed?
Bawujwayele umkhondo ngizabagwaza. But what I want to say this, our president and this administration, again, we stand firm and say no, we are not bullied, and we will not even continue to be bullied in this house, because we will stand firm to our facts and not give in to this theatric politics, where the opposition benches highlight real problem issues through passionate critique. We are very much, of course, are mindful of what needs to happen. I want to say the aspiration of Freedom Charter will be realized, and we continue to champion this work. The land will be shared, the doors of learning and culture will remain open, all citizens will enjoy equal human rights. We will continue to work, and we will not negotiate what needs to be achieved. But what I want to also say in closing, I urge all members to look at this budget. It's modest in terms of rent, but we will deliver the impact when executed with passion and partnership. We must throw our weight behind it and not claim to be rhetoric without supporting women, youth, and persons with disability. Thank you.
Order, honorable members. The next speaker is Honorable Ghana.
Before I start with my speech, let me convey my condolences to the Mabuza family, the ANC, and the people of Mpumalanga on the passing of the former Deputy President, Didi, the cat, Mabuza. This evening, I want to rise for a young person who has been waiting patiently, hopelessly, for support from the NYDA. I'm rising for the survivor of gender-based violence, who wishes this department will be louder, bolder, and more visible. I rise for the person living with a disability, who wants more than just a mention in the department's title. They want true advocacy, inclusion, and action. As Rise Mzansi, we remain committed to building a safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa in one generation. But this vision it's impossible without real, tangible progress for women, young people, and persons with disabilities. The department holds a critical responsibility, which is the coordination and overseeing the transformation agenda for some of the most vulnerable and most powerful voices in our society. But too often, this department is absent. It is missing, it is quiet, when it should be leading from the front. Nowhere is that silence more deafening than on the growing crisis of gambling addiction amongst young people, Minister. It's a national emergency, yet yourself and the silence from the NYDA is loud and deeply disappointing. With a budget of 1.3 billion, with over $1 billion that's allocated for youth development, we should expect impact. On paper, the numbers show promise, but in practice, delivery is weak. The ongoing delay in appointing the NYDA board is unnecessary and harmful. Parliament has settled the matter. Now it's time for the executive to act. Please, don't politic. The NYDA must return to its core mission, which is empowering young entrepreneurs and not merely providing stipends that mask youth unemployment. Our youth, women, and persons with disabilities deserve more than just slogans. They deserve action. Let's get to work and make the NYDA work for all young people in South Africa.
Cancer Chabseki. The next speaker will be Honorable Hlazo Webster.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I want to start by joining my colleagues in conveying our sincere condolences as Build One South Africa to the family of former Deputy President Didi Mabuza, as well as the ANC and all colleagues. Chairperson, I want to begin by making it clear that the issues of women, youth, and people with disabilities are deeply personal to me. In fact, my life's work, both before and within politics, has been centered on particularly economic inclusion and the economic development of those who are marginalized, especially women and youth in this country. And so these are issues which to me are personal, and when I stand here today and say that this department must be shut down, I do so not with disregard, but because these are issues which I believe are so important. They are issues which I care deeply about and communities that I care deeply about. But I will say without fear or hesitation, this is a department that must be shut down. This department should represent the very reason many of us entered into politics, and that is to fight for the inclusion, equality of those who have been sidelined, to be brought into the center of decision-making and to be brought into the center of the economy. But what we have here is not a champion for inclusion, it has become the opposite. Instead of mainstreaming these issues across government, this department has created a silo that allows the rest of government to abdicate responsibility. So I'm going to use what's left of my few minutes to demonstrate this. According to the BWA Women in Leadership Census, women occupy only 20% of executive roles and less than 10% of CEO positions in JSE-listed companies. Yet we make up more than 50% of the population. The national unemployment rate for women is 37.3%. For young people under 35, it is over 45%, close to 70% by the expanded definition. And these are structural barriers. And it leads one to conclude that this very department should not exist because it clearly has no tangible impact for those it purports in its mandate to champion. What we should be seeing is procurement policies in every department being achieved for women, youth, and disability-owned enterprises. We should be seeing accountability for the safety and progress of women across every level of government. There's no shortage of examples, but one of them is the National Register for Sex Offenders, which the minister is not fighting tooth and nail to make available for those who need it most. It's time to abolish the department and free up the budget to build a state where every policy and every budget line and every department is held accountable for the empowerment and protection of women, youth, and children. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Mahlatsi, will you be participating? Can you please come to the podium?
Thank you, Chairperson. Otso, Maafrika. Ha ke qale ke kgothatse lelapa la ha Mabuza family and the former liberation movement ka se etsahetseng kgotso. The United African Transformation firmly oppose Vote 20. Not because we reject upliftment of women, youth, and persons with disability, but because this vote is a hollow promise that continues to betray those who suffer the most. In the nation built of the bones of colonialism and the wounds of apartheid, we are duty-bound to restore the dignity of African women, the African youth, and the African persons with disability. But this budget is neither bold nor transformative. with barely 1.1 million allocated and only 5 million set aside to address gender-based violence, we are not governing, we are pretending. How do we call ourselves servant of the people when our African daughters still miss school due to lack of sanitary product, and the sanitary dignity program lacks the oversight and national coordination? How do we honor our youth when 45% of them are unemployed? And we offer them slogans instead of skills, consultants instead of opportunities. But my Africa, let me speak especially about the matter that exposed the cruelty of the current system. In this country of ours, a person with disability who receives a full social grant loses it when they marry in community of property to a partner who also receives government assistance. As if marriage miraculously cures their disability. This is not law rooted in justice. This is policy rooted in punishment. This is anti-black, anti-poor, and anti-family. Ubuntu teaches us that a person is a person through others. But our policies teaches us that they disable to stay single, to stay dependent, and to stay invincible. This is not African liberation. This is a structural violence. And while the NIDA and the Commission of Gender Equity remain vital institutions, they are weakened by late reports, mismanagement, and lack of grassroots presence. We cannot empower youth. We cannot empower young people with broken tools. Until Vote 20 reflect the live realities of our people, their pain, their dreams, and their right to dignified life, the United African Transformation reject this budget. Kani mambo.
The next speaker will be Honorable Kanyile.
Honorable members, today I rise to debate Budget Vote 20, Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. Sadly, we note with the greatest disappointment that over R1 billion has been allocated for various programs within Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, yet there is no allocation for the National Council on Gender-Based Violence as femicide, a newly established multi-sectoral statutory body designed to coordinate, oversee and strengthen the country's response to the gender-based violence and femicide crisis. The National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Act, Act 9 of 2024, was signed by President Ramaphosa in May 2024 and came into effect on the 15th of November 2024. In a country like ours, where statistics indicate that by the end of March 2024, a total of 5,578 women were murdered, 1,658 lost their lives, and many in a domestic setting. Police quarterly data from April to June 2024 shows alarming increases compared to the same period in 2023. Murders of women rose by 7.9% to 966 cases. Attempted murders against women up to 16% to 1,644 cases. While the department confirmed that they are consulting the Treasury and gave commitment that they are moving towards establishing the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, these statistics are a clear indication that if we were serious about combating gender-based violence and femicide, this council would have been established immediately after it came into effect in November 2024 and budget set aside for this financial period. We will keep a close eye to ensure this council is established and National Treasury allocates budget for 2026 and 2027. Chair, behind numbers that are always presented when statistics are released, just like the ones that I've mentioned above, it is family members, it is mothers, it is sisters, it is little girls whose right to live, as enshrined in our Constitution, Section 11, states that, I quote, "Everyone has a right to life," close quote. These rights, honorable members, continues to be grossly violated, thus fueling our nation's gender-based violence pandemic. Honorable members, we have witnessed how a young woman named Olorato Mongale was killed after she took all precautions to ensure her safety as she was going to meet a man. She informed her friends about this date she was going to and indicated that she will be sharing her live location every hour, and if they don't hear from her, they should start looking for her. She did all that is humanly possible to ensure her safety, but still she was killed. We must stop killing our women. We must stop killing our mothers. We must stop killing our sisters, and we must stop killing our daughters. It is possible for all of us to coexist, and women's right to life must be protected. Honorable Chair, through our interaction with the Portfolio Committee on Police, it has become evident that even though the South African Sign Language was officially recognized and enacted in law in 2023 as a South African 12th official language, 2 years later, nothing has been done by SAPS to cater for sign language users. In one of our interactions, they advise us that when they have a complainant who uses sign language, they need to liaise with Deaf SA to provide interpretation services. We view this as a secondary victimization, as it's unclear what happens between the time the complainant present themselves to lay charges until an interpreter has been secured with DEFSA. Are they perhaps expected to go back home to their abusers while they wait for this process to be finalized? We urge South African Police Services to finalize the issue of availing sign language interpreters. We trust their budget will address this issue in this 2025-2026 financial period. Honorable members, over R1 billion have been allocated to the National Youth Development Agency for the empowerment of our youth and young persons with disabilities. What is vastly disappointing, however, is that the very institution mandated to drive empowerment and upliftment of young persons with disabilities only employs 1.2% of persons with disabilities out of a staff size of over 100 permanent staff. This highlights the continued failure of not only the NYDA, but many other government departments failing to meet 2% employment equity for people with disabilities. It is for this reason that we doubt the target to reach 7% employment equity target is currently attainable. As members of Committee of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, we call upon the newly appointed CEO, Ndumiso Kubeka, to institute a fit-for-purpose turnaround of the institution. We also acknowledge that it is not only the agency's responsibility to address the issue of youth unemployment. It is for this reason that we call on all departments to ensure they meet their equity targets on employment of youth, women, and persons with disabilities. Chair, the DA supports this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker will be Honorable Chauke.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, fellow South Africans, our Minister, Deputy Minister, and stakeholders. We, as the African National Congress, we reaffirm our commitment towards development, inclusion, and embracing diversity. We reaffirm our commitment towards integration and accelerating and advancing the rights of the most vulnerable in this country. As the African National Congress, we have remained very clear and directed in ensuring that no one is left behind, ensuring that there is economic and social justice for all South Africans. As the African National Congress, we're committed towards an economy that does not exclude but integrates and accommodates, a society that does not displace, discriminate, but is inclusive. This can be seen through our progressive legislations. As the African National Congress, we ensured the domestication of the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities. But further to this, it is important that in this august house, we further advance and accelerate the implementation of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, in order for us to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities are enshrined within our Constitution and also our legislative mandate, and ensure that there's equal access to economic and socio-economic opportunities. The African National Congress also put forward legislations such as the Protection of Older Persons Protection Bill, Amendment Bill. Through this august House, we put it in place. We must continue to advance the protection of the most vulnerable, which is what is mandated through this department. I will then come back, Chairperson, to speaking about other legislations that have been passed in our august House. We reflect on the budget before us, and one would say, yes, with a heavy heart, I am not satisfied. But simultaneously, we must say we support this budget, because not supporting it means we are redressing, it means we are creating opportunity for more persons with disabilities, youth and women to be excluded. We are then saying departments do not need to be accountable. The budget that is allocated is not sufficient for the mandate that is given to this department. And that is the reality. Through various stakeholder engagements and negotiations with the National Treasury, we have re-emphasized that ring-fenced budget needs to be allocated to this department in order for it to meet its constitutional mandate. It plays a critical mandate of oversighting, planning, and monitoring through all government spheres, all spheres of government and society. But how can it do this with such a minimal budget? It is an important department that we cannot get rid of. Because if we do that, we will be regressing. If we remove this department, a Megan Tsofatso Chauke Adonis will not find opportunities. So we must really understand that this department plays a critical role in the development of young people, the development of women, the development of persons with disabilities who historically have been marginalized and excluded. What is equally important, and I call to action, is for all departments to play an active role. Consultation, collaboration, and implementation is key in meeting our NDP goals. It is important in ensuring that the realization of the Freedom Charter in its existence and fullest, we are collaborating not only as government, but also civil society and communities. What we usually do not say is that there's underfunding for institutions such as CGE that has a responsibility to ensure accountability, adequate and equal access when on gender mainstreaming. It cannot do this when a budget is minimal. Therefore, it means there must be interdepartmental collaboration that takes place. The private sector must play its role. Society equally must play its role in combating gender-based violence and femicide, which we call a second pandemic in this country. More and more women are losing their lives. More and more persons with disabilities are losing their lives. More and more of our children are dying and going missing and are being sold as sex slaves. We must understand the important role of this department and its institution. The role of NYDA is not necessarily to create jobs. It is to create opportunities for young people, to be an agent of activism and lobbying for economic and social justice and inclusion for young people. It is an agent that seeks to ensure that young people are represented, are sitting on the table, and not just mere spectators. It is its responsibility to ensure that persons with disabilities who are young, women who are young, and all young people across the country are able to access economic opportunities. And I'm not shouting. Maybe my voice is too much for you. I am one who speaks with passion because I am a woman, I am young, and I am disabled. So I speak with conviction. I speak with passion. I am not here to fight, but to say that the work of this department is critical. We must understand it. It requires for parties to also play an instrumental role. We look at political parties who do not even prioritize gender equality. Many political parties stand here do not have disability representation. It's not it's the reality. That is the reality. This must be enshrined in our legislation that says and policies of the National Assembly and our political parties to ensure adequate and equal representation in all facets of society and decision-making bodies. And this is what this department is doing. This department and this portfolio committee, over the past few months in our time, we have called several departments to come and account on what their contributions have been towards economic and social development and justice for women, youth, and persons with disabilities. The disparities of children with disabilities who are displaced and are not placed in academic institutions, places of learning, is a reality. A reality. The reality. Yes.
Can you pause a bit?
Can I step aside?
No, stay where
Okay,
you are.
thank you.
Honorable Nombalo, why are you rising?
Chair, once again, we're working here and the honorable member of the ANC is sleeping. I'm your shower, Moya Baba.
Honorable Nombalo, I have not seen that and it's not my business when you see people who are sleeping.
He's a watchdog.
It is not my business. So, Honorable Chauka, can you proceed?
Thank you very much. This is where honorable members raise on frivolous points of orders instead of focusing on what has brought us here. Understanding the lived realities of young people, of women, and persons with disabilities, we become watchdogs where we are not needed. Nonetheless, we proceed and we say that we need to ensure that our policies and legislations are understood by our ordinary South African individuals and persons who really understand how our legislations protect and promote their rights. We must ensure that we continue having our consultative sessions, but they must be tangible results. We must ensure that there is adequate implementation of policies, legislations, and programs that yield results and show a true and meaningful impact in the lives of South Africans. This is what the African National Congress is committed to. Any political party that seeks to dismantle that progress, the African National Congress will continue to fight for the rights of the most vulnerable. While on the other side, bayagwazana sibajongile mabagwazane. While those who are in red are there grandstanding, wanting to trend on TikTok, we will help them to trend. We say that even to our GNU partners, those who say that the Equity Act must be
Honorable members.
Must I pause? Okay.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Malibongwe.
Honorable members. Order. Honorable Dlamini. Order, please. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members, order. So what Honorable Slepe has done is wrong of switching on the mic. I'm unable to stop Honorable Chauke because the time is up because of that action. And you will accuse me of not stopping her when the time is up. Please don't do that. The last speaker is the Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Let me start by extending our heartfelt condolences to the Mabuza family, the people of Mpumalanga, of South Africa, as well as the ANC, but also even this parliament. Some of us are still shocked. Let me thank honorable members who participated in this debate. We listened carefully and we will consider the constructive contributions you made. In fact, on a number of issues that you raised here, we agree with you. We also want to thank our guests who sacrificed their time and joined us to listen and contribute to our budget vote 20, and they are joining us from the Parliamentary Library. We thank and honor you. We wish to work with you going forward, and your solution-oriented approach is highly appreciated, and we value that. I also wish to acknowledge the contributions and constructive leadership of our Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Liesel, as well as the whip of this committee, Honorable Megan Chauke. And of course, we want to thank members of the Portfolio Committee for their continued guidance as well as support. I want to thank the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities for her support and willingness to do more. I wish to extend my appreciation to the entire Ministry Office staff for their support, our Director General and her team for their hard work. Allow me to also appreciate the sterling support of the disability rights machinery, the youth machinery, women's machinery, and our development and academic partners for their continued and unwavering support. We thank everyone who's supporting us. Honorable Sotesi, we agree with you that ANC is firm on women empowerment, but also on empowering the vulnerable groups. Hence, the department was established. I also, Honorable Hwekane, to mention that it is not true that youth do not want entrepreneurship. They only want job. Some, they want to be entrepreneurs, that is a fact. Others, they want to do the job that we're explaining. And it is also not true that we incurred irregular expenditure as a department. We got a clean audit as a department. So there was no irregular expenditure. That is simply not true. You're misleading our people. We agree on the issue of the fully funded National Council on Gender-Based Violence. We agree with you on that one. Somebody has actually raised the issue that we're spending little on research and knowledge management. Yes, the budget is not adequate, and that is why we are using other institutions to actually ensure that we do conduct research. Institutions such as Human Science Research Council, we are doing that. Let me also say that...
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.